Yesterday, at a church service, the president declared that Unga is 155. This declaration can only be compared to the Declaration of Independence of Kenya. This is something that people really enjoyed, especially people who are living in poverty. This was a very, very important statement for them, and they really celebrated it until they entered the mart and the supermarkets, only to discover that the Unga is that price has not yet reflected and is not there anymore. The Azimio coalition has touted the government for this kind of misinformation, but the Prime Cabinet Secretary Bwana Musalia Mudavadi had asked this to tell Kenyans.
Pahali tuko, you cannot turn around an economy the way you brew instant coffee. Vile unatengeneza kahawa ya Nescafe, usifikiri ndio hivyo unaweza badilisha uchumi. It takes time, consistency, commitment and sacrifices ndio tufike pahali tunataka tuende. Secondly, we all must focus. I know somewhere in the Bible there is Lazarus. Lazarus alikuwa na shida na familia yake, the sister and others wakatuma ujumbe kwa Yesu wakamwambia, njoo haraka, Lazarus yuko kwa hali mbaya, njoo haraka, tunakuhitaji. Lakini Jesus akakaa, akafocus, akamaliza ile kazi yake na akarudi kwenda kumwona baada ya siku mbili hivi. Why am I bringing this issue of Lazarus? Let us take it in the context of managing time. Let us take it in the context of focusing. Jesus had gone for his mission and he focused on his mission. And no matter what distraction was being brought to him, even if it was a matter of life and death, Jesus still remained focused on his mission. And he managed his time, and he knew, I have to fulfill my obligation, do what I'm doing, I will deal with the issue of Lazarus when I get there. He did not panic and run away from his mission to go and deal with the Lazarus issue. So the message I'm putting across here is that as Kenyans, and for the president, let nobody try to distract the president's focus. Let him implement his program, work on resuscitating the economy, and let us not work on other people's emergencies.
The opposition under the guise of the Azimio team is saying that the government is useless consistently, giving Kenyans hopes and promises that they do not fulfill. Indeed, most of the politicians within the Azimio team have argued that a president that cannot feed his people is worse than useless. This is what the Azimio coalition thinks, and they argue that changing the economy and economic tides is within the power of the president, and at decision he can make a decision and change the economy. But many economists, especially the likes of David Lee, strongly disagree with this kind of political reasoning. The big question is, what will solve our economic problem? Is it the promise or political power, or is it through rational and consistent effort that will eventually lead to the elimination of difficult situations, especially to the Kenyans down there at the bottom of the ladder? I watched this clip by the Azimio coalition.
I took my time right. Because since the time that we were campaigning, I've been concentrating on Azimio manifesto.
Okay.
But when I sat and read at it yesterday, it was equally a good manifesto. I'm saying we are deteriorating because they're not implementing, they're not even taking cognizance of their own manifesto. The pace is too slow. Does it mean that we took over this government when there were no resources? Does it mean that they took over this government? Maybe just keep quiet, don't say absolutely. Because we know, and we respond to what he's saying, absolutely. Now, I want to say that one gap that is missing in this country, and that is why I'm saying advisory role,
Okay.
which they have completely blocked their ears. Advisory role is missing.
All right.
Planning role is missing. Prioritization is missing. Being sincere and adhering to our promises to the Kenyans is missing. Once we take over offices, we try to relax. The promise of Kenya Kwanza, we don't have to go this extent of carrying sufurias, which they think it is a mere sufuria carrying, which they think it is a wooden spoon carrying. It is not literally the sufuria and the wooden spoon. It is basically the extent to which the Kenyan child is suffering.
The economy is not the inevitable manifestation of cosmic fate that causes the sun to rise and rain to fall. The economy is a multi-tier and very complex variable that cannot be reduced to the command of politicians. So, Ruto's own way of performing economical miracles by sovereign commands and demands, I don't think this is the way in which the economy will grow, especially considering the fact that Unga is the price of Unga around 190 to 200 is something that is for now sustainable. We do not need to create more miracles. Uhuru Kenyatta tried to create miracles by giving subsidies so that Unga became 100, and this only ended up creating more problems than solutions. What Ruto wants to do right now is to make the opposition, or to steal the agenda from the opposition, so that the opposition has nothing to say and has no other further problems to say. The reality is that you can never end problems. If you make the Unga problem disappear, the devolution nightmare will appear in all its dimensions. So the political process is about resources, and this is now the problem that it is very difficult to solve by sovereign commands. So at the same time, Ruto has to appreciate that he is the president of this country, and he has to somehow stop listening to political noise that will not help this country attain any tangible results. The reality is that the price of Unga does not only depend upon what the president does or does not do. One thing we need to realize is that Kenya is part and parcel of the global economy, which means what happens in other parts of the globe affects this country too. For example, when we have the Russian-Ukraine issues, especially the disruption of the channels of supply, especially of petrol and other key commodities, this thing affects the country very much. We also have to look at the question of the shilling devaluation against the dollar. This is another issue that affects the country, and to add on another issue, that of climate change. So there are multi-tier issues that affect the price of Unga, and these issues are not in the president's control. Putting them in the president's control is another way of telling the president to misuse his power. We have to realize that Kenya is a democratic state, and the president has been pushed to the corner whereby he has now to make mandatory decisions and make mandatory deductions such as NSSF, and increasing this kind of deductions. In the end of the day, what this truly results in is that there is concentration of the burdens of the country on the few Kenyans that are employed. because let's say the truth as it is very difficult to truly put someone in the informal sector fully in the taxation infrastructure, because most of the activities in the informal sectors are difficult to measure and really recognize when they are happening, because most of the time they happen at random in what we call the economy of providence, whereby the hustler depends on the benevolent hand of God to supply him or her food to the table. So we have to understand that we have sometimes to endure the true cost of living. In a way, a fair cost of living is better. Making the cost of living too easy is a dream that can never be attained in this or any other world. What I think the government is doing and should keep doing is to accept the reality that is facing this country right now. And the reality is that the economy is a complex problem that cannot be solved in one day. As the Prime Cabinet Secretary Davadi put it, it will take time and some effort and some consistency. And also we need to realize that we cannot predict what will happen tomorrow. You don't know whether another Ukraine war will occur. Already we are seeing political instability in Sudan, and this kind of countries, this kind of situations affect the country because the trade ties and export trade is also disrupted in a way, giving more problems, especially in regards to the US dollar. So right now the president's hands are tight, and commanding him to make the cost of living go down will only make him do what we call replacement, which means the tax that is coming from Unga can be put to come from fuel. This is possible. So that will be an elusive way of reducing the cost of living, because it will only mean that other commodities will rise as Unga goes down. So this is not a realistic solution. This in the end of the day will affect Kenyans just the way that it is affecting them. So the most important thing, or what I might call the rational thing to do right now, is to accept the economic realities within which we are embedded with, and also express our efforts in such a way that they are consistent with the economic realities, so that we do not live in a world of false promise. We also have to realize that there is a need for link and continuities between the government that is going and the government that is coming. The issue that is affecting Kenyan politics and has continued to affect Kenyan politics continually, decade after decade, is this problem whereby a new politician draws away all the work of the former politicians, and so that in every 5 years or 10 years the country is left struggling to implement new policies. We have to realize that Uhuru, whether he was good or bad, there are some good aspects about him that maybe need to be continued. We cannot dispel with all the work that he has done in the name of political rivalry or political competition, because disunity brings considerable duplication of effort. So this is not the way to go that will solve the problems of this country completely and in a way that will truly help Kenya to grow. We have to realize that at the end of the day, when all the politicians are dead and gone, when no one else can be called a politician, we will have a country that will stay forever and it will outlive all of us. As Barack Obama put it, I will leave you with one statement, and that one is: grant yourself with values that last. We have to be realistic in this country and avoid hoping for economic miracles. Thank you for watching this video. Like, share and subscribe to our channel.